Modern trade routes, ancient maps. Anomalies across the Arctic as the northern sea routes are being set up. New trading blocks evolving, new economy evolving, and we're at the peak of a civilization spike evolving. So where does all this take us next? Starting with a view over the blue hole to relax the mind as we look at the dust swirling from Africa. If you were feeling a little bogged down over the last few days, yeah, there's extra ash, especially across the southeast U.S. It's the 4th and 5th. And as you notice, that is a pulse. You can clearly see the curvature to it. And as we look off of the same day here, the 5th of June, this is the next pulse that's making its way off of Africa. It's very much like a wave pattern, an undulation in the atmosphere, sending these incredibly thick dust flows across the ocean, across the Atlantic, which will be arriving in another good 7 to 10 days, and we'll get congested once again, yay. Also on yearly cycles here, low pressure system in the southern hemisphere. Notice how it's encapsulated though. You see that red. Those are all high pressure systems that are locking that in place. So it's really not going very far. It's locked in that exact area, but then high pressure would be over South America and Australia during that prolonged period there. And then suddenly it changed. And this is the new model 1 year later where the high pressure system is or was. Most of them have dissipated, but then we have that low pressure cell sitting right off the tip of South America. So you can just envision how different the wind flow patterns would be throughout the southern hemisphere and how that might affect either storms or crops themselves being grown. It's a cycle like everything else. So the economy is shifting too. I think it's on a dime because it has to, just my opinion. But if we look on how these all intertwine and the new trade blocks evolving, this is from the year 2000 on the left all the way to 2025 on the right. These are countries that have U.S. bonds, that hold treasury bonds, T-bills. And I will draw your attention to that pink line, which is China, and you can see it going down, down, down. And they're going to continue to get rid of our treasuries as the light blue, the UK, they can only pick up so much. I mean, compared to China. And why would people be fleeing, you might ask? And to put it into perspective, a billion seconds ago was 1993. A trillion seconds ago was 30,000 BC, before the Younger Dryas, before we even exited out of the last ice age. The U.S. national debt is now rising by $1 trillion every 180 days, or $2 trillion a year for those of you with smart math. And because of that, other nations are starting to trade amongst themselves using different kind of gold-backed currencies and promises of commodities. We'll swap something like you have iron ore. I will give you soybean and we can trade off somewhere with an equal value. And this is what's being set up outside of quote-unquote Western-controlled banking systems. So the trade routes here run through the Arctic. And you see the northern sea route is that red line that connects all the way over from Russian ports, through Russian ports in the east, and easily accessible down into China then versus taking that by rail. Northwest Passage is not so reliable as being enough ice-free as a passage, but that red route and the blue in the center there also going directly near the North Pole, but not exactly over it, which would be a bit more of a straight line, I would think. There's a well-known saying on Wall Street, sell in May and go away. This year, even the big players are echoing that sentiment. Bank of America and UBS are both urging caution, advising investors to sell the rally. Markets are still struggling to regain their footing. We've seen over $11 trillion in wealth erased from U.S. equities, and the broader economic outlook remains uncertain. Historically, periods like this have often led to increases in central bank intervention, which more often than not means more money printing and a weaker dollar. In uncertain environments, one asset has shown remarkable resilience over thousands of years: physical gold. And Goldman Sachs is projecting a possible rise to $4,000 an ounce by 2026. If you're looking for stability in turbulent times, owning physical gold can offer a level of diversification and protection that paper assets simply can't. Here's the next step. Call Monetary Gold at 1-888-570-2636. Ask how you can hold gold in a tax advantage IRA and what incentives they have today. Again, that's 1-888-570-2636. And tell them ADAPT 2030 sent you. We're seeing these types of things everywhere. I did that video yesterday on the historic train lines between Mexico and Panama, and then Panama's going to punch through that Darien Gap, and those rails are going to connect all the way up to North America. So it's happening everywhere all at once, at the exact same time as the economy is starting to shift. Now, why is that? Well, there's a realigning. So if we look at this map here, it shows the Arctic route in just a different format so you can see it. But notice the overland routes and then the maritime routes that are transiting across south of India to Gwadar and over into Red Sea. That's all controlled by those of emerging economic status and power. And right in the center you see Kazakhstan, which could be compared to the Denver airport of Central Asia. This is called the Nome Project. And it's supposed to be designed as you can get everything within a certain amount of walking or bicycle distance, that you don't need vehicles to get around these areas here. But the capital of the corporation has moved to here, which we all can see the world around us just completely getting shattered and reformed so quickly in many different areas. And it's going so fast, making the head spin, really, even to try to keep up with just latest of developments. And then all of these projects are coming online at the exact same time to do what? To continentalize all trade. So there's some barriers, or there's some, gaps between continents be connected together to make it the ultimate trade block. Well, these are all being removed now, and then these new trade routes being set up across the Arctic. Now, I do like the Arctic because I am a fan of Noctalucent Clouds, and I do think there's a correlation on how much debris comes into our atmosphere and how many of these clouds that we see. It's a good variable to know. Are we going through a more debris-dense region of space? If yes, things are getting burned up in the atmosphere, and all that extra dust is creating these high-level clouds, in addition to Hunga Tonga with the water vapor that's up there in the mesosphere. Now, I was always puzzled by why didn't they collapse it in and do the entire North Pole. They left a big circle up there, and it continues. It always has. It's never been fully overlaid on the whatever the imagery that they're sending back. And the thicker they are, and the earlier they onset in the season, that means more cosmic debris was in our atmosphere the year prior. So this is a good gauge. And it's also cyclical, completely observable, that it changes on a period, and they call that a cycle. And you can see where it starts at the apex, the diminishment, and then how that restarts itself depending on the month of the year. So again, that's a different kind of longer duration cycle. And I found some of this info here on the International Noctilucent Observation Manual. Links in the description box below from the World Meteorological Organization in 1970. And while I was doing the research for Noctalucent Clouds, I stumbled into a video. John Levy, I got an answer, and I want to add to some of the research you were doing, because he was talking about the maps that exist from the 1600s about the Arctic Circle. And I had seen a lot of these same maps. If you go to like rare map sites, they're all over the place. These anomalies in history where they're telling you something was discovered or wasn't until a certain time. And just doesn't make sense, because there's a lot of maps out there showing we discovered things before they were discovered. And if you zoom in on that, Polus Octavis. And please remember, the cartographers of the day would have equivalent more top security clearance like we have today. Plus, forgery on maps was punishable by death. At least during the monarch times when they were scouring the planet for treasures, if you were to lie to the king, that's not really something you're going to step away from. So these older maps I really do believe. So after watching John's video, I was like, that's interesting, because I have a few of these maps, and you can go on image search and find some of the same things. 1582, John Dee, advisor to the Queen Elizabeth at the time. Here's a map. It shows the very same thing in black and white right there for you. And then here's another one from 1594. And if you notice on the bottom of both of the globes, you see a fully surveyed coastline of Antarctica. Yeah, Antarctica, that big thing that wasn't supposed to be discovered until the early 1800s. It's here on a map from the 1590s. So John, here's where the research is. I went up to Null School, and if you go to Null School Wind Earth Map, you can find the same anomaly that's up at the North Pole there. So you see directly over that, with that bulges sticking out of the water area, that is the North Pole. We'll look at it live here for just a second. And you can move the model around and when you do the wind flow stops, but you can see right away, if you're looking for something, that we get a, how do you say, anomaly directly over the North Pole. And if you swing in on it, there shouldn't be anything up there, right? So why is it actually pinging as showing wind or some sort of wind anomaly being wrapped around or pulled in a different direction there? If there's nothing there and it's totally flat ocean, how can this anomaly be here for years on end is the question. So looks like a circle to me, and something is definitely bending the wind currents, the flows there. If I zoom in a little bit more on it so you can see, it takes on really what it does look circular. Now what's causing that in the middle of the ocean where it's supposed to be completely flat and no land up there? So something is here for us to see and notice. But if you are going to head up and explore some of these northern sea routes, be aware, Greenland gaining ice, that red line, 2025. It's a good sign that something's returning. And with all the changes we're seeing, I am just wondering if somebody knows of these past cycles and would put us right at the peak of one of these cycles, knowing we're stepping off of it, otherwise known as a restructuring of our world, the way it operates. And that's why we're seeing a restructuring of our world, to let it operate in a new world. Somebody's mapped this out. They've gamed it out. So they know where they need to take everything in order to keep it functional for the new world, quote unquote. And this is what we're being dragged through right now. But the base cause of it is not being able to grow enough food for the entire planet's populace reliably enough that they don't even think about food or food prices. We're way past stationary, like trains long gone out of that station. Now the excuses come to try to explain away never-ending food prices, although they should be decreasing if we're supposedly producing more food. And I'll leave it there, but please come join us on Civilization Cycle TikTok. We got about 4,200 subscribers over there. We need 5,000 so we can broadcast live, and I want to do some lives, get some more information out. So please come on over there, subscribe to the Civilization Cycle, and help us reach our goal, getting up to 5,000 so we can take it to the next step. I appreciate your time, so valuable. Thank you for coming to stay and listen to what I had to say. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.